All right, good afternoon, everyone. Everybody can hear me okay? All right, perfect. My name is Kyle Spiess. I'm a lead product manager for Microsoft Teams Rooms. Today I'm going to be talking to you about voice and face profiles within Microsoft Teams and some of the important features and how you as customers and us as Microsoft manage and handle the data in those features. So first, the most important thing for voice and face profiles is how does it benefit our customers. The first feature I'll talk about is voice isolation. Voice isolation, let's see. There we go. Can everyone still hear me? No? How about now? Better? Better? All right. Yeah, voice isolation is part of Microsoft Teams, and what this allows is based on a voice signature for a particular Teams user within Microsoft Teams client, it cancels out every other noise or any other voice within Teams except that recognized voice signature. If you haven't seen any demo videos of this, there's plenty online to go view. I know Ilya, our leader, gave a demo video of this a few years back. Very impactful for users, especially if your office space is designed in open areas and open offices. This is a hugely beneficial feature to users where they don't have to worry about voices being overheard behind them, and they can count on the technology to use that voice. Another important area for the technology is obviously in rooms. So in rooms, with voice recognition, we can now attribute speech directly to people that we recognize and that are enrolled in those rooms. Where that's really important is our strategy towards Copilot and Facilitator in Teams. So all of the information that Copilot collects and aggregates and Facilitator aggregates is based upon the meeting transcript. And really without that attribution of those utterances that are spoken in meetings to actual users, those AI artifacts are created after the meeting as actionable insights aren't as useful unless there are particular people assigned to those. So for a Teams client, it's easy. It's one person to one device. For a room, it's a bit more difficult because it's multi-user to that one device. So that's where we really need voice enrollment profiles to be created so we can attribute those voices in rooms to make those AI artifacts that we're creating in our workflows meaningful for users. Second, we also have hybrid meeting experiences for voice and face profiles where if you're face enrolled, you can see your name tags of people that are in the meeting room with Teams Intelligent Camera, or through, if you have Cloud and Teleframe enabled in a room, you'll be able to see enrolled participants that are face identified in the meeting roster. So from a hybrid work experience, for remote users, it's very beneficial to see who's in the room, who's speaking, and really be better engaged in that meeting context. And then the last point really is all of this data is handled with privacy and trust in mind, and we adhere to strict Microsoft data handling policies with all of this information. So today you can enroll your voice, what we call active enrollment. Within Teams, within the settings pane in Teams, there's a recognition tab where each user can go in and establish consent to enroll their voice and face. And it's very easy. It takes a few minutes. You read a few sentences, and from those sentences, we create a unique voice signature for that person. And the same thing for a face. If you have any type of Face ID on your phone, very similar process. We record the face and create that face signature for those users. We've heard feedback. Sometimes it's a bit too difficult for users to find where this is, and so we're releasing in March a new type of enrollment that we call Express Voice Enrollment. It has quite a few advantages other than easier enrollment for users. So how this works is when we first enable this and it's enabled in your tenant, users will see a coach mark where they can either opt in or opt out of having their voice enrolled. And this is really important because this is the user consent that as a customer, the customer controls this type of user consent. Once they consent, what we'll do then is in the next meeting that they join, we'll collect audio samples of their speech in that meeting. If we gather enough audio samples to create a voice signature, we'll create that voice signature and discard all of the audio that was collected during that media. So all we have left is this encrypted voice signature that's stored on the tenant. We won't say they're enrolled yet, though, because we have to do that a second time, because we have to ensure that we have a good match and a probability that that is the user's actual voice. Another advantage is, instead of reading a few sentences, we're getting more accurate voice because they're in a meeting using their natural language versus just reading some type of text off of a script. So we'll see better accuracy in meetings, better accuracy in voice isolation from these different types of signatures. I talked a little bit about controls. Controls and user consent is very critical for all of us to gather this type of information. For enrollment policies, right now, those policies are set to a default on state. We feel this is a very important technology to continue the workflows of Facilitator and Copilot. And it's very easy to control through Teams PowerShell if you want to disable it through a set of commandlets. But user consent really still remains to opt in through those coach marks. So just by enabling these policies, you aren't consenting for all of your users to do this. They still have to have their personal consent to enroll this type of data. And this last point is important. Once this is enabled, again, there is no identifying voice or face information ever collected without that explicit user consent. The second action you'll need to take to make this applicable in Teams rooms is you have to enable the Teams rooms for both voice and face recognition. This capability is default off by today. So as an admin, you have to go in and enable this technology. Previously, we had to use Teams PowerShell to enable this, but recently in December, I think of last year, we released device settings, both on the device itself and through the Pro Management Portal, where you can manage this on a per device basis, and it gives you a lot greater visibility on which rooms are enabled and what rooms are not enabled. Previously, using Teams PowerShell was very difficult to just at a glance go in and see what rooms do I want this enabled in, what rooms don't I want this enabled in. Because I imagine, in your deployments, you're going to have some rooms that, yes, you might want this technology enabled, and other rooms might be a little bit more sensitive where you might not even turn on transcription, for instance, or recording in that meeting where there is no use for that type of data. This slide is really important. This is just talking about kind of how the data flows, right? And the approach we're taking is this controller processor framework. From a controller aspect, we want the customer to be in control of that sensitive customer data at all times. So you own the data, the customer owns the data. Those voice and face signatures that are created are stored in the user shards and substrate on that tenant itself. They're encrypted. They're non-reversible identity signatures. Only our service has the capability of decrypting those, but we are only allowed to process those signatures if you set the policies that allow us to do that. So again, that gives that control to the customers to enable us to enable these types of features and process that sensitive data. We also have data residency requirements where we'll automatically delete profiles after certain periods of time. So if a user hasn't been identified, let's say in a meeting room through voice or face, after 90 days, we automatically delete their profile. So they would actually have to re-enroll, and they would have to opt in again for that enrollment. And again, if for voice isolation, what we do for voice isolation is actually store a local signature on their device as well, so that's applicable at all times. And after 14 days of unuse there, then it's automatically deleted from that until they want to use it again, then we download it again to that device. All of this you can learn on our documentation page. I'll have a link at the end here. It's called aka.ms Get Recognized, but there's a full set of documentation on all of these types of control policies. Another important point here is these profiles are only used for Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Teams rooms. These are not shared with any other service within Microsoft. They are strictly used only for Microsoft Teams features. I talked a little bit about the controller aspect. We've received a lot of customer feedback as we want more visibility into how many users do we have enrolled and what type of capabilities do we have to control those voice and face signatures. So in March, we're also rolling out the enrollment dashboard within Teams Admin Center. So an admin can go into this dashboard, see all of their users that are enrolled, look over a certain period of time to see how many users are enrolling or if it's reducing. And then additionally, if they dive deeper into each user, we now have the capability for admins to actually delete profiles for users. So if an employee leaves, they can go in and delete those profiles proactively instead of waiting for that data residency to take place. Or if a user requests, they can't delete it themselves or they can't figure it out, if they log a help ticket, then we now have given a method for admins to delete those profiles as well. So again, it's all about providing the right tools and controls for our customers to manage that sensitive data. And for us as Microsoft, we'll only process that data if we're authorized to, and we'll enable those features that utilize that data at that point. So really, again, there's a lot of benefits here. From a user perspective, you get that security of when you're talking in a crowded environment like this, that only your voice is being heard and people can hear you clearly. If you're going into a meeting room, that once you see those AI artifacts that are created in Meeting Recap, you'll be able to trust that data and you'll be able to go back and spend more time on the meeting and less time taking notes for yourself because you'll have that done for you. For remote attendees, that voice clarity and not having to be distracted by that background noise is great for productivity. And knowing who's in the room is really important, right? A lot of times, you want to know who's saying what, who's taking particular actions, who's having side conversations, during meetings. So that's where name labels and being able to really know who those participants are important. And then obviously IT admins are important to, as I mentioned, to be able to control that data, knows who's enrolled, how do you get messaging out to your users to keep track of how many users are getting enrolled. It's very important. And then how do you manage your compliance and manage allowing this technology through your privacy teams, through your security teams to get these features enabled. So in all, for hybrid meetings, things become a bit more natural, leads to better meetings, better insights from those meetings. And happy to answer any questions anyone may have. If you scan the QR code, this will take you directly to our Learn documentation to talk a little bit more in detail about what I've discussed here. If you have any questions, I think there's a microphone. Happy to take any.
On the user side, what do you mean by AI? You got the AI assistants. What do you mean? Can you elaborate for that, please?
So for that, I'm talking about the AI meeting recap that we have in Teams. So the recap is where it'll take a look. If a meeting is recorded and transcribed, it'll use that transcription to generate insights and action items based on that meeting. So after that meeting, you'll be able to view the recording and view that recap with notes that are automatically generated and actionable insights at the bottom from that meeting.
Are we able to register more than one language?
Yes. Yes.
How many?
I don't know offhand. Great question. It is, our supported languages are on that aka.ms site, which I don't know what happened to my presentation, but we'll try to get that back up here. There we go. Yeah. But supported languages are on the Learn documentation. Yeah.
I have another questions. For the users on the meeting, do you also equalize the audio signal in order to have a good performance, a good quality of audio? And you mentioned about the background noise you eliminated. Is that the AI base of technology on eliminating the background noise?
Yeah, a couple questions there. So yes, we do implement within our media stack, we do have AGC, which is automatic gain control that equalizes voices throughout the Teams meeting. And then your second question, we are utilizing AI to subtract all of the noise except for that matching voice profile of that user. So that's how we're able to eliminate that. So we don't allow any speech to pass through to the end users or to the other remote users without that voice signature matching. Yeah.
We were speaking previously about the languages. What about the quality of the transcript when the people are speaking for non-native English people, in fact? How the transcript quality is? Should we do the voice recognition in English, even if it's not our native language?
It depends on the Teams meeting. So what the Teams, I think there is a language that the Teams meeting, the core language that the Teams meeting takes place in. So for that language, for those supported languages that are at the site, that Teams meeting would need to take place in that native language. We do support additional languages for closed captioning, but each meeting has a particular language. So I believe the voice recognition at that point in the transcript would be in that meeting's native language.
We don't use Copilot at this moment. Are there also solutions to use this without Copilot?
So voice enrollment, I think without Copilot or Facilitator, voice isolation is the biggest benefit for voice enrollment. I've talked to many customers that is really landing well, especially with open office environment, where that's really one of the driving reasons is the voice isolation feature. For face profiles, those are applicable even without Copilot. So we'll still, if you have a Teams Intelligent Camera, we'll still generate those name labels and for face recognized participants. Or as I mentioned, if you have Cloud and Teleframe enabled on your room devices, recognition can be enabled now on those devices and will populate those room participants that are recognized in the roster as well. So those do not have a dependency on Copilot or Facilitator.
Thank you.
Great question.
For meeting live events, there is the possibility of use the Copilot in translation the language or not?
I don't know that question offhand. I would have to get back to you on that. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. Could the feature be used for identity check?
For an ID check.
ID check, yes.
It cannot be, no. Yeah, we do not. So the only supported features for this type of information today are the ones that I shared right now. But yeah, we don't do any type of ID checking with this information. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the show. And I'll be around, hanging around the booth for the next 20 minutes. If you want to come up and ask me a question personally, feel free. Thanks.
interpreter can be activated during a Teams meeting at any